Hello, everyone. This is your host, Debra Poneman, and I'd like to welcome you to our call with today's guest, Dada Nabhaniilananda. Dada, also known as the Monk Dude, originally from New Zealand, is a yoga monk, a meditation instructor, an award-winning songwriter, and an author. In 1979, Dada was ordained as a yoga monk in India, where he studied with the great Tantric master, Shrii Anandamurti. Since then, Dada has performed and spoken in more than 40 countries, won 5 international songwriting awards, produced 8 musical albums, published a popular meditation book in 7 languages, and appeared on stage with the Dalai Lama in Brazil, where he played for a crowd of more than 10,000. Dada helps people to connect to their inner source of love, creativity, and purpose using music, meditation, and humor. He currently runs a yoga center and teaches a course in meditation and the way of Tantra. And today you're going to discover how to make meditation enjoyable. Also, a method for connecting to the source of love within. You'll discover a powerful universal mantra, the most beautiful spiritual chanting music you have ever heard, and last but not least, how to achieve inner bliss. Wow. Well, I am certainly looking forward to the time with you, Dada. Thank you so much for being here and welcome to the call.
Thanks so much for inviting me, Debra. It's a pleasure.
Yes, it is going to be a mega pleasure. And I have to start out by asking you, why did you become a yogi? I mean, what was a young man from New Zealand? Why would you choose such a course in life?
Well, if you had asked me when I was a lot younger, I don't know, when I was 18 or something, if you told me that I was going to become a monk, I would have thought you'd lost your last marble. It was the last thing from my mind. I was an atheist, and I wanted to be a rock star. And before that, I wanted to be a wizard like Gandalf. So I really had kind of different things in mind. But when I became a university student and I was studying Renaissance literature and music and all these things, during that period in my life in university, I had an extraordinary spiritual experience that changed everything for me. And it seemed to come out of the blue, but there was always some mysterious reason to these things. But it was really impossible to describe, but I'll give it a go. Imagine all the love in the universe condensed into a single point, floating before you like the sun, so utterly real that everything else seems like a dream. And in that moment of epiphany, I understood that my purpose was to become one with the source of infinite love within me. And I really felt drawn to walk the path of yoga, the spiritual path as a yogi, and to eventually become a teacher and guide other people along the path to happiness. So it was a complete turnaround. And within months, I went to Australia and I started training and working as a volunteer for this yoga and social service organization. And I ended up in India with my guru in 1979.
Wow. So, can you tell us a little bit more about that moment, or you can't because it's just indescribable, where the entire universe was just love?
Well, I could say more, but I wrote a song about it. People can get it. It's called The Fire Dragon. And that's kind of my best attempt at describing it. But what do you say? The great yogi Ramakrishna, he was known for going into these, what's called Nirvikalpa Samadhi, this very high spiritual trance. And his disciples would ask him, what's it like? And he would sort of say, it's like, and then he'd fall in the trance because he couldn't describe it. So, not that I'm going to do that, but I feel like that. I can't really put it into words, but it was the most beautiful and real thing I could ever have imagined could ever happen. And it feels like it's always been there. and it always is. So, the reason I don't feel it all the time, and, sort of as Jim Carrey famously said about his great spiritual epiphany, he says, I've been trying to get back there ever since, But I know it's there inside me, inside everybody.
And as a yoga monk, I imagine that part of the intent is to lead people back to that all-encompassing love. And what kind of training did you have to go through to become a yoga monk?
Well, it's not for the faint of heart. I really went through about 4 years of preparation, where I was working as a volunteer, as I said, and I went through various sort of mini trainings. That was mostly in Australia. But the core training that I did in Nepal and then in India, well, the routine was like this. You're up at 4:30 in the morning. We were meditating 6 hours a day, doing a lot of yoga, fasting once a week for 1 day at a time, then on a vegetarian diet, and studying a lot. One good thing about it was the study was pretty difficult. We were reading all these books on philosophy, and we had exams coming up. But because of all the meditation that we were doing and just such a simple life, my mind was crystal clear, and I could read these difficult books on philosophy, and it was easy. It was like, because you were really getting it on a deeper level. So in the last week of training, we lived for a week as a beggar. So I was wandering the streets of Kathmandu, begging for food. And it was wonderful. I felt incredibly free.
Are you serious? I mean, did you ever starve, or did people give you?
Well, I'm glad you asked that, because, we were allowed to sleep at our center, but we only got to eat what we were given by people. And in that whole week, I asked a lot of people to help me, and not a single person refused.
Oh,
and these are poor people. This is Nepal.
I know. Oh my goodness. Sorry I interrupted you, because I thought you were going to say not a single person gave me anything. And you said not a single person. That shows where I'm at. Oh no. But you said not a single person refused.
Yeah. These are poor people. They'll give you maybe 5 paisa, which is like half a cent, or they'll give you just a little tiny amount of rice, but they all get something.
That is so beautiful. I just can't even imagine somebody who grew up in a place like New Zealand, and then you have to go and beg for a week. That's very, very intense. And, I know that there are a lot of different schools of yoga and lots of different schools of meditation. So what would you say is unique about what you offer to people, what you teach?
So I studied in the school. It's called Anandamurti, it means the path of bliss, and it was established by Shrii Anandamurti, who you mentioned. So the tradition of yoga goes back at least 7,000 years. And there are many schools that have diverged from that, and it's influenced. I mean, the ancient yoga has influenced even Taoism and perhaps even Christianity. There's various schools of thought on it, and certainly Buddhism. And Buddha was a yogi, and then he kind of went beyond his own masters. So the influence of yoga has been pretty broad, and across many countries, many parts of the world, many religions and cultures. But the original spirit of it, as we learn it, is that it's balance of wisdom, service, and love, which in Sanskrit we call jnana, karma, and bhakti. You're familiar with that. And this was also the teaching of Sri Krishna, who, if you read the Bhagavad Gita, it's all about Sri Krishna. And so this core kind of essence of yoga is all about balance. So it's not just going to a studio and doing some physical exercises so you can be physically fit and calm and relaxed. That's one part of it. And it's not just meditating so that you can, feel connected with God or with your spirit. It's those, but it's also serving others, acting out of the feeling of universal love and doing service. So our organization runs a lot of schools, educational programs, community development projects in places like Haiti and Peru and India and Africa and everywhere. So I was very attracted to that, because I thought this is not just something for me. This is something for everybody. This is something that'll really help the world, and that was what I wanted. I was a very fussy kid. I was really hard to satisfy. So my spiritual master had to satisfy a lot of criteria, and I kind of was ticking them off. It's got to be rational, not just superstitious. I'm not really interested in religion. I was an atheist before, and I want something practical that's got a method that really works. So I wanted, techniques that were tangible. I mean, I'd practiced a couple of other kinds of meditation before I learned this, but when I learned this technique, the first lesson, I felt like, okay, meditation's good. It's like walking's okay, and you get some kind of car, a regular car, and that's way better. But now I had a Ferrari. So the technique is amazing. At least that was my experience and a lot of other people's experiences. And the other thing is that our founder, Anandamurti, he was talking about women's rights and ecology and social justice and economic justice back in the 1950s, when nobody in India was talking about these things. And he was very controversial as a result, because he was very critical of the government and the corruption in government and so forth. But he was a great social visionary. He really, he talked about, and he said in the future we'll establish a spiritual civilization on Earth. And he's not talking about a religious government. He's talking about a society based on the values of universal love. And that's what I'm really interested in, and what I want you people to work for. And he wrote 17 books on socioeconomics. So he wasn't just, a great yogi. He was somebody who wanted to apply the wisdom of yoga to these realms that affect so many people. I mean, all of us are affected by the way that society is governed. And he said, you can't ignore this. At the moment, it's causing a lot of misery and suffering, and we have to do it right. That captured my imagination.
Yes, I could see why. And that's so interesting, because I, of course, had heard of Anandamurti, but I didn't realize that he had written 17 books and that he was an outspoken advocate of things like women's rights in the 1950s and against government corruption, because now I know that there are different teachers and gurus in India who are finally standing up to the government corruption. And here he was doing that 60 years ago.
So he was the pioneer of that.
Yes, no kidding. And also the other thing that I love about what you just said is that a lot of people learn meditation, and it's great because they have inner peace and inner silence, and on the basis of that inner silence, they go out and create great lives for themselves. But what I love about your path is that there's also that aspect of service. You don't just meditate in order to make your life better, but you meditate and then you go out and you do good in the world. So that's beautiful also. And we can't wait to hear more about your meditation technique, because it is the Ferrari. We would like the Ferrari. And another thing that I know is that you're an award-winning musician. I mean, in your introduction, I was just taken by all of the, producing 8 albums and, songwriting awards. And I imagine now that the chanting that you do and the mantras that you do are tied into your gift for music. Actually, before I ask you to talk about the relationship between what you do and your music, can you tell people what a mantra is? Because a lot of people might not know.
Sure. Yeah. In my introduction, I have to do all that boasting stuff. It's, to be honest, as a New Zealander, it doesn't come naturally to us. But in America, I kind of learned how to boast.
We made you do it.
I'm blaming it on you guys. And I just want to quickly refer back to something you said. I know in your work and in what I've been doing more recently in the US, we meet a lot of very successful people, been in the worldly sense, have been very successful. And many of them, at that point when they feel like, okay, I've made my money, or I've, got the fancy house and all that, then they kind of think, well, what am I going to do with this? What's it for? Many of them end up trying to figure out a way to help people, because they understand that that's what gives their life meaning. And of course, that's what Bill Gates is doing with most of his, a lot of his money, and, Eric Clapton and Sting, and a lot of wealthy or successful people end up finding that the really meaningful thing is to help others. So I kind of think that's a good point to start from, why wait all that time?
Yeah.
So I want to say something about mantra and chakras. Well, about meditation technique. So the meditation technique that we teach includes a whole lot of different things, but key to that is the use of mantra. So a mantra is a word or a phrase, usually in Sanskrit, sometimes in Pali, which was the language Buddha spoke. And the idea is that these words or this phrase, the sound vibration and the meaning help to take our minds to a different state. So just as music can change your mood very quickly. I mean, if you come home from work and you're kind of tired, you put on your favorite piece of music on the stereo, and within seconds, you're in a different mood. So mantra is based on that principle that sound can shift our state of mind very quickly, and it's very powerful. And the other principle of mantra is that words don't only have a sound, they have a meaning. So, the other aspect of mantra that's very important is the meaning, because every word has a sound and a meaning, and both of them are significant. So there's a principle in yoga which you'll come across in lots of other places, which is that as you think, so you become. And what you focus on, that tends to become real. So if you're focusing on a particular word or phrase in meditation or in chanting, you're spending a lot of time concentrating on that particular word or phrase, it's going to tend to become real. So it's very important that the meaning of the mantra is something very uplifting and positive, because that will affect you. You'll become like that. Kind of like the mind, your thinking occupies the shape of its container. So if you pour water into a cup, it takes the shape of the cup. If you think of something, your mind stuff takes the shape of whatever it is you're thinking of and becomes that. So if you think of an elephant, you create an elephant. If you think of love and infinite bliss and generosity and compassion, your mind becomes like that. So the mantra should have a meaning that means that. That means something very positive and uplifting. And that's the principle of mantra. What was the other question?
And the other question was, so when you use a mantra, you use it like in a repetitive way, like a chanting type of a way?
Right. So how do you use a mantra? There are two main ways of using a mantra. One is in chanting out loud, so usually with music. So you'll maybe in a group, it can be done alone, but if you've experienced what's often called kirtan, it's chanting, usually Sanskrit mantras in a group, and people get high. It creates a feeling of a kind of flow of love. So that's the kind of out loud version. Meditation with a mantra is kind of doing the same thing, but it's silent. So you're chanting it internally, and it's drawing you inward. And we're going to do a little exercise. We will actually do that later on.
Ooh, good. Okay, before we do that, though, a lot of people talk about chakras. I've had other guests on my show where they'll do an enlivenment of the chakras, or they refer to chakras. Can you tell people what chakras are and then tell us the relationship between mantras and chakras?
Sure. So both of these concepts are from the old system of Tantra yoga or spiritual yoga coming from ancient times. But they become very widely used and well known because they've been around for so long. So mantra is, as I said, the sound. It's a collection of letters. And chakras are these energy centers along the spine. There's 7 major chakras. And if you see a diagram in a yoga studio, you might see these different chakras represented as lotus flowers. Of course, it doesn't mean that you're going to, if you cut somebody open, you find a lotus flower in their spine. It doesn't work like that. It's a metaphor for a point that controls psycho-spiritual energy, you can say, or prana, prana is like the life force. So there are these 7 major controlling points of the life force and the energy, and different feelings and emotions are controlled from these different points. Obviously, something like feeling of love and compassion is coming from the heart chakra, or hope also from the heart chakra. And fear is controlled from the Manipur, the navel chakra, and sexual energy from the 2nd chakra, and so forth. So there are many feelings and emotions and desires, and they're all controlled by these different chakras. And each one of those lotus petals, and the lotus flowers that kind of represent them, each petal represents a different feeling or emotion. There are 50 of them in total. And each of those petals also has a sound associated with it that resonates. When that sound vibration comes, that particular feeling resonates. So there are 50 sounds, and those 50 sounds are the Sanskrit alphabet.
I have been studying Sanskrit and spirituality, and as you know, I've been in India a gazillion times. I never knew that. The petals and the letters of the Sanskrit alphabet, that is so, thank you. I'm just so excited. I'm sorry. Keep going.
Well, that's why mantras, they're like magic. I mean, it's like, I said that when I was a kid I wanted to be a wizard, which is kind of true, but mantras are like magic words. Magic, the wizard says abracadabra, and it has some powerful effect. Mantras resonate with our chakras and our psyche and our nervous system because the whole language is related to the chakra system. And that's why they didn't change it. I mean, Sanskrit's not spoken anymore. It's the origin of many languages. I mean, English words like the word man or woman comes from manush, which means being with a developed mind. So it's kind of flattering. But the language is not spoken anymore, but it's been retained as a language of mantras and of philosophy and scripture.
Well, because you not only teach meditation, but you are so tapped into this energy and also the energy of music, is this a good time for you to actually take us through a meditation? Can you do that?
It's always a good time to meditate. But in the context of our program, it's perfect, thank you, yes. So let's do that. So listeners, please, the first thing is, if you are driving a car and listening to this, do not do what I'm about to tell you. In fact, you should probably turn off your listening device and listen to this at home. So it's not to be done while you're driving or using any kind of device that might cause a problem. So I want you to sit comfortably with your back straight. You can sit on the floor or you can just sit in your chair, but it's important the back is straight so you can breathe freely. And breathe through your nose if you can comfortably. And close your eyes, and we're going to listen to a little music with a mantra that's a part of the music. And the mantra has 3 words, which are Baba, Nam, Kevalam. So this is a universal mantra that can be sung and chanted, but can also be used for meditation practice, as a beginning meditation practice. And the meaning of it is that love is all there is. So that's embodied in the mantra Baba, Nam, Kevalam. So we're going to listen to the music for a few minutes, and then I'll guide you through a little meditation exercise, which you can use at home if you want. The more the better. And we'll see what happens. Now keep your eyes closed. And remember to sit straight and breathe through your nose with your hands cupped in your lap, with your thumbs together. And let the music with the mantra continue in your mind as though you're hearing it. Rather than repeating it in your mind, you're listening to the music and the mantra coming from within you. Firstly, it's being played back to you by your memory. And it's reminding you of something very important. Like a voice coming from your inner self, telling you, don't worry. There is a place within you of perfect peace and love and happiness. And it's always been there. And it always will be. Feel that the music and the mantra is coming from that place. It's your inner self singing to you, calling you inward. To this place where all you feel is perfect love. Of course, we've all felt love at times, but it's coming from this place. And what we're doing is tapping into something that's always been there. So we're focusing on that. Let that part of you rise to the surface of your mind and fill your consciousness. And then feel that this love that's within you fills your whole body and surrounds you. And pervades all of your thought, your whole awareness in all directions. It's spreading out. It has no boundary. There's no limit. And the music is reminding you of that. The mantra is reinforcing that idea of limitless love coming from within you and connecting you to all things. And if your mind wanders, just bring it back with the music. Recall the mantra and let the music draw you back to that place within you of perfect and infinite love, peace, and happiness. We'll just use the mantra silently, like that, for a couple of minutes now. Okay, now just take a deep breath. Keep your eyes closed for a few more seconds. Take a deep breath. Breathe out and relax. And when you feel comfortable to do so, you can open your eyes. And Debra and I are going to continue our conversation.
Debra's going to try to continue the conversation. That was amazing. Whew. The music, the meditation. Okay. Wow. So powerful. I do have another question. It's amazing that I could think, but I've heard those mantras, I've heard those words before, but the music that the mantras were like embedded in, I mean, is there something especially powerful about that music?
It's a combination. It's the mantra with the music. But I have to say I've been really blessed being able to work with some extraordinary musicians. Most of that music is from this Norwegian guitarist, Nils Einar Vinur, or Sukadev. The God of Happiness is what his Sanskrit name means. So he's a very dear friend, and we made a lot of music together. And I'm singing the male vocals. The female vocals are from another dear friend. Her name is Gita Anisete in San Francisco. And I've recorded with a lot of different people. I've recorded a lot of different albums, but I have this fantasy of putting together a kind of a dream band of all my musicians that I love working with the most, and those two are definitely two of them.
Well, I want that music playing in my house all the time. It is your music. I guess I could ask you this later, but I have to ask you it now. That music was specifically for meditation, but I love the vibration of it. Do you have music that you could have going in your house just to uplift the vibration and where you live?
Definitely. I have 5 albums of this stuff.
Oh, good. Okay.
I got to tell you, don't worry, you'll get it all. I've got to tell this story about this type of kirtan. So one of the recordings that Sukadev made earlier, this is just when I met him, but I wasn't on that recording. That album's called Flow of Love. And it's the same kind of chanting with his guitar, different tunes. Really, kind of blissful, right? So we had a weekend meditation retreat at our center here where I live. And one of my new students, he came along and he enjoyed it. And one of the other students said, "Oh, you got to get one of these CDs. It's really, it's really nice." And he says, "You can play it in your car and that." He says, I don't want to get it because my car stereo busted. It doesn't work. I got a Beatles CD. It's been stuck in there for 4 months. And they said it will cost $700 to replace the whole thing. So I didn't bother. So I'm not going to do it. But then at the last minute before leaving, he said, "Oh, I'll get it anyway." So he got the CD, went down to his car in the parking area, opened the door, and the Beatles CD had popped out. And he's been playing this chanting CD in a stereo ever since. It works fine now.
Whoa, I love that story. I so totally believe it because that music has such energy. So even the intent. Wow. Now, we're not guaranteeing. It doesn't come with a guarantee that it will fix your car. That it will fix everyone's car stereo. You're an artist and you're also a yogi. And why do you think that so many people who are artists, who are musicians and visual artists, creative, brilliant people, seem to suffer a lot? Can you comment on that? Or is that question out in left field?
The story of my life. And of many artists that I know. So this is definitely in my field. It's not an urban myth that artists tend to suffer more from, creative artists tend to suffer more from, emotional problems. Even, like bipolar condition is much more prevalent amongst people who work in the creative arts. It's true. It's been demonstrated. So why is that happening? This can be analyzed in terms of the model of the mind that you'll learn about in yoga philosophy. So there's a whole area of yoga psychology, and the mind is seen as having 5 layers. And it's somewhat analogous to the Western model of the conscious, subconscious, and what Carl Jung called the unconscious, or sometimes he called it the collective unconscious, which is a little controversial. But it's more, I'm going to say it's more thorough than that. It actually subdivides that 3rd layer of the unconscious into 3 more layers. Creativity and imagination that is the realm of the first, what we call the first layer of intuition. So when somebody cultivates that or has been born with, a great imagination, and this isn't limited to artists or musicians, this may be scientists or, filmmakers, or it could be anybody, because we're all using our creative faculties in different ways. But when we tap into that, it's the same level of mind that the seeds of the personality, you could say that a bit about karma. So the unexpressed karmic reactions come up in the same level of mind. So what's happening when we go into, we tap into this creative part of our minds, we're also bringing up a lot of kind of stuff of our unresolved issues and so forth from our past at the same time, which can create a lot of problems, a lot of emotional ups and downs. And I know personally a lot of people have had those kind of problems. So the solution is, dare I say it, yoga and meditation, because it is designed, the system is designed to develop all of these 5 levels of mind in a harmonious and balanced way. And if we develop the higher level of intuition, which is kind of level of wisdom and where we learn real detachment and discrimination, that brings everything into balance. So it's like the way to sanity is to go higher. And there are specific meditation practices that do that. They're designed for that, and it really works. So that's what keeps me sane. I know this very well because I've experienced it so many times and so deeply.
So you're saying that, obviously you don't have to just be an artist, but by learning these meditation practices, you say the way is to go higher. And I see that. And it seems to me that it would help people who have things like depression, who have maybe even physical illnesses. I don't know. Is that possible for meditation?
It's not just possible. It's kind of becoming well known because there's been so much research into it. If you just Google meditation research, you'll find thousands of articles, hundreds of studies, maybe thousands of studies demonstrating how meditation helps. Firstly, the obvious ones like high blood pressure, stress-related illnesses or stress-related symptoms. Doctors prescribe it. It's very, very well established that, but also it's been well established as it's becoming more and more used as a way to cope with depression, bipolar condition, and there's even evidence now indicating that it may help with Alzheimer's, which would be very big news because, of course, that's something that many people are facing as they grow older.
Wow.
Yeah, so a big yes to that.
Yes. Well, I have a feeling that when you tell us about your offer, which I am really chomping at the bit to hear about, perhaps there's some music and some meditation in your offer. But before I have you share that with us, a lot of people really struggle with meditation. They say it's hard to concentrate. Is there a best way? Can you share with us now a best way to make meditation easier or more enjoyable?
Yeah, use music. The problem is a lot of people think of meditation, it's something I ought to do, but it's hard. It's kind of like homework or exercise, So yeah, that's very off-putting. If you think of it as something, using music in conjunction with meditation, music that wakes up that feeling of devotion, makes it a love story instead of homework. And that's a lot more fun.
Yeah.
And it's a lot easier because it's tapping into this natural inclination. We want to feel love. This is a fundamental drive. Kirtan, using the sort of magic of mantras and the right music, can wake that up. And then when you sit to meditate, you go into it. You're not fighting with your mind, you're flowing with it.
You're not fighting with your mind, you're flowing with it. Nice. Okay.
We're designed to meditate, actually. But we kind of need technique as well. So I feel that I have been able to tap into that natural capability with the help of the amazing teaching that I've had access to. And that's why I've spent my life teaching it to other people, because I think this is the most wonderful thing in the world.
Okay, well then we want the most wonderful thing in the world. We want to hear about
Really?
it. We do. We want the most wonderful thing in the world who that earlier on we heard is a Ferrari. So I would love for you to just share with me. I know that you've done this already a little bit, but can you share with me some specific results that you've seen people experience from applying what you offer them, applying what you teach?
Yeah, where do I get started? I've been teaching this for 35 years, so I've got hundreds, I guess thousands of students. And I have a very beautiful collection of letters from them saying how it's changed their lives and so forth. So I'll give you a couple of simple examples so people can appreciate how quickly this can work and how tangible it is. I had a woman come to me 3 years ago, I think. Her doctor said, "You've got really high blood pressure. You better do something about it." I said, "Yes, you learn meditation." She calls up. She came along. She started meditating. She was just meditating once a day, I think. Very simple technique. All I taught her was what we've done today, actually. She never even took the next step. Within 2 months, her blood pressure's back to normal, perfect. And the doctor's, pretty happy, and she's over the moon. So simple. There are dozens, hundreds of stories like that, but there are that's important because that could save somebody's life. But there are more important things than that, and that is making our lives rich and fulfilling and saving us from emotional suffering. So I remember one of my students who, I get very attached to my students, especially the young, like university students, because they're so kind of innocent, if you like, and very idealistic. And so one of my students, some years ago in England, she was one of my students, and she was, meditation, and she was practicing quite sincerely. And I lost touch with her, and then years later, I think 15 years later, she found something of mine on the internet. She wrote me a beautiful letter where she's saying, I don't know if you realize, but, I was very young. She'd gone to England from America. So I was in England. And she said, what you taught me basically saved my life because I was going through so much. And, she didn't go into detail, but I kind of knew there's a lot of, she was 18, in a foreign country, kind of alone, very brilliant, but just going through a lot of emotional trauma and everything. And she said this completely saved her life.
Wow.
There's lots of stories. And there's one where I want to tell you, there's a woman, very simple. She just said, before I started meditating, I thought that in order to be happy, I had to be with somebody. Because she's looking for a partner who's going to make her happy. And she said, now I realize that I'm somebody.
That's gorgeous. Through her meditation, she realized that she was her own lover and she was enough. Oh, that just gave me chills. I am somebody. Okay, we want that. We want what she has. And I know that you created a special offer for everyone who's listening to this call. And you can just click on the special offer button that's on this page. And I really highly encourage everyone to go to Dada's special offer right now. And needless to say, experience it for yourself. But Dada, can you let everyone know what they'll find there?
Oh, there's so much stuff I put in this. I don't know what, I must have been just come out of some meditation. I didn't care about the material world anymore or something. What's wrong with me? Okay, here we go. So there's a meditation quick start course, which is a series of 8 30-minute, I think they're about 30 minutes. It's like a mini course, an audio course. So a series of 8 classes, which you can listen to, and it takes you through the whole thing. It's called Quick Start because it's like a quick introduction to get you started meditating straight away and to give you a quick overview. And it's based on my book on meditation, which is called Close Your Eyes and Open Your Mind. So that's one thing. Then there's a whole bunch of music. There's the music we just used. That's off an album called The Best of Sukadeva. It's track number 3. It's called the Dinosaur Tune. I'm not going to tell you why. It's a funny story, but so there's that album. There's a whole lot more of that music. Then there's the Flow of Love album, which is the one I mentioned that fixed the car stereo. Then there's another album by Sukadeva, same artist. Then there's another album called Flight of Love that I did with him. Then there's my home study course. So this is a serious thing, actually. This is, if you really want to get to meditation and get established in the practice at home, I've got a package with it's got my book in it. It's got the workbook. So you like have a lesson every week for 2 months. Then there's a recorded guided meditation for each week. And you've got the whole book as an audio book as well, so you can listen to it in the car as long as you promise not to close your eyes. And that's my whole meditation home study course. Then there's some of my own music. So I write songs, and that's, then I get to boast about having won some awards and stuff like that. So there's some the albums where those songs are. One's called Warriors of the Rainbow. So I play music. A lot of people tell me it sounds like Cat Stevens, if you're old enough to remember him. I know I am. And so it's kind of folk rock, but it's with a spiritual theme, and also a lot of songs about kind of environmental issues and social justice issues and world peace. So it's kind of spiritual, can you say, ecological. I call it spiritual eco-folk. So there's 3 albums there. There's Warriors of the Rainbow, The Return of the Magic, and The Fire Dragon Suite. And then there's some guided meditations. Oh my God, there's more stuff here. It's 2 guided meditation recordings. Then there's another series of videos. There's 3 videos, which are, one's talking about letting go, because, we cause ourselves a lot of suffering by clinging on to stuff, so it helps you get over that. One's about concentration, which is something a lot of people have problems with, and guiding you through ways to develop concentration. And one's about mantra, which is something I told you a bit about, but goes into that in more depth. And then there's another series of videos, which is a part of a series I've started, which is going to be, eventually is going to be 100 short videos, each one containing a meditation tip and a guided meditation and one aspect of a meditation practice. So these are the first 4. One's just the introduction, then there's one called Right Beginning, there's one called Right Time, and there's one called Right Place. And that's it. The whole thing's called Meditation for Conscious Evolution.
Wow. I was just waiting for the Fire Dragon, because at the beginning...
Oh, yeah, that's in that album there, the Fire Dragon Suite.
Yes, because you said that was what you wrote when you had your initial experience that the universe was just totally love. And I thought it was going to be one song, but it's 11. The Fire Dragon Suite. I cannot believe how much you are giving us. This is like insane. I mean, one of these modules, just the meditation quick start course, would be worth, $97. That's just, well, I don't know. Just like you didn't have words when you experienced that love was the entire universe. I don't have words right now. This is just unbelievable. It's so generous of you to put everything in. I so sincerely hope that everybody takes advantage of this. Dada and I were speaking before we went on the air about that I've been practicing meditation for many, many decades, and everything that he's shared is so true. It could so transform your life. It's like the basis. We try to build our home without first building the foundation, or we try to build a skyscraper without first building the foundation. And what he is giving you is a way to build the foundation. And I'm just so appreciative that you were my guest today, and also that you put this amazing package together. Just click on the special offer button that's on the page. Actually, I have one other question. What do you think, in a nutshell, are the biggest benefits that people can expect to experience starting right away and then over time by incorporating this into their lives?
Yeah, I'll have to be concise because I've got a list of more than 100 benefits that you can get from meditation. Right?
Yes.
So, initial benefits. What most people notice in the beginning is that they just feel more peaceful. Anyone who's practicing regularly, and I actually recommend people practice twice a day, even if it's quite short, even if it's just 10 minutes twice a day, you're pretty sure to start feeling just more peace of mind, just more calm. And that'll be matched by, kind of physiological benefits that may or may not be significant. Like I mentioned, for some people, high blood pressure is important, right? If you happen to be measuring these things, your blood pressure will probably come down, or it'll come back to closer to normal very quickly within a couple of weeks. You'll feel that just a sense of relief, I think, from the pressure of too much thinking. People who have problems sleeping often find that very quickly goes away. Yeah, those are some of the initial things that come, right? Long term, it gets bigger. Creativity is one of the ones that I noticed immediately. Well, maybe not immediately, but within a couple of months, I found that it's like switched on this tap of ideas and imagination, and I was writing, I was writing music and poetry and all that, but it just became like a flood. It was wonderful. So that's a big plus for somebody like me. But really, more important is the quality of your relationships. Because you're tapping into the source of real love within yourself every day, of course that affects the way that you see other people and treat them, and they reciprocate without even thinking about it. And the quality of your relationships just goes on this upward curve. And the other big one I want to mention is it develops a feeling that you want to help people. That, you're helping yourself, you're finding happiness, and after a little while, when that kind of stabilizes and you're feeling more together and less maybe desperate or whatever it was you're coming from, but you're feeling like, okay, I've got a pretty good life, I'm pretty happy, but if I want to be really happy, the biggest fulfillment for me I can see is finding the reason I was born. Why did God put me here? What am I supposed to do for the world, and what's my legacy? And finding that kind of sense of purpose is a huge thing for a lot of people after they start meditating. Some, of course, already have that, but it's a way to find that. So, yeah, creativity and, loving relationships and finding a sense of purpose are the big things for me.
Well, we'll take all of the above. So I'm going to give the URL again. It's livebigmedia.com/chant. Wow, this has been so extraordinary. And again, thank you for that amazingly generous offer that you have put together for us. And I sincerely hope that everyone takes advantage of this. And before we say goodbye, are there any final thoughts that you'd like to share with us?
Yeah, I just want to say how much I enjoy talking to someone who I think really understands what I'm talking about on a deeper level. Yeah. And I want to tell our listeners, it's time for me. I'm a teacher. I teach students, and I want to tell all of you who are listening, all of this is very, if you get it, it's super inspiring and it sounds wonderful. Make it real. And that means practicing. So apply it. Don't waste it. This is an incredible opportunity. If you haven't come across anything like this before, this is more real than you can imagine. Try it.
Amen. And I have to say, again, all my guests, I just adore all of the people that I interview, and I think everybody has such amazing gifts to offer, and all of our listeners have such amazing gifts. But this is, I believe, the basis it's like anchoring ourselves to the silent depths of the ocean, and then when there's that silence and that stability, then we can be these magnificent ships that sail. Of course, we pick up the anchor, but we sail to our destiny. And I think that meditation is just anchoring us to the silent depths of ourselves. And what you have offered us is just extraordinary. You are extraordinary. Will you come back again?
Sure. When I finish my science fiction comedy novel, I want to come back and talk about that.
I think that is so insane. A science fiction comedy novel written by a yoga monk musician.
I didn't tell anyone about the secret of meditation, but we don't have any more time.
Oh, tell us.
No,
Tell us,
I'm not going to. No, that's for next time.
in the meantime, we're going to get your package and we're going to learn a lot of secrets. And we are just, again, so thrilled, so appreciative. You are just extra, extra, extra special. So thank you so much for being with us.
Thanks so much, Debra. It's really been enjoyable. I loved it.
And thank you to everyone for spending this time with me and with Dada Nabhaniilananda. And I look forward to when we are all together again. This is Debra Poneman. Have a wonderful rest of your day.